Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I have learned as I've grown into the person that I am today. And I have my Melody Beatty books with me today, so let's just get right into them today and start reading. I think I'm going to read from The Language of Letting Go first today. I have been reading more from Journey to the Heart, so let's see what The Language of Letting Go has to tell us today. Speak it into the universe. What do you think that we need to hear? Let's see, it's May 6th. Feeling good, May 6th. Make yourself feel good. It's our job to first make ourselves feel better and then make ourselves feel good. Recovery is not only about stopping painful feelings, it is about creating a good life for ourselves. We don't have to deny ourselves activities that help us feel good. Going to meetings, basking in the sun, exercising, taking a walk, or spending time with a friend are activities that may help us feel good. We each have our list. If we don't, we are now free to explore, experiment, and develop that list. When we find a behavior or activity that produces a good feeling, put it on that list. Then, do it frequently. Let's stop denying ourselves good feelings and start doing things that make us feel good. Today, I will do one activity or behavior that I know will create a good feeling for me. If I'm uncertain about what I like, I will experiment with one behavior today. Such an interesting meditation, you know. I think we spend so much of our lives thinking about the things that we have to do instead of thinking about the things that make us feel good or the things that we enjoy doing, you know? And I think we save very little time for, well, the majority of us, I would say, save very little time for those moments that we really enjoy, you know? Like for me, it's like taking a nap or listening to an audiobook, or I really enjoy going out to dinner with my husband or with friends, you know? And I love going to meetings. Meetings are, for me, a social outlet. And, you know, even though I'm there for recovery, it's also a chance for me to see my friends and interact with my friends in a way that I don't every day, you know, unless we go to all the same meetings, which we don't. But I think that it's an interesting concept, you know, of like figuring out what makes you feel good in this world and the things that make you happiest. And I used to have this book years ago, and it was like a list of all these happy things, and I'm sure some of you out there have seen it. It's like this thick, and it's like a little white book. Things That Make Me Happy, I think it's called, or something like that. And it has the funniest things in there, things you would never think about, you know? And I think it's kind of a neat thing to make a list of all the little things in life that make us happy, you know? When I got sober, I can remember I was, I don't know, maybe a month or a couple months sober. And I remember sitting there in this meeting, and I was listening to somebody speak. I have no idea what they were speaking about. I don't remember much about it. And, you know, I think we today expect so much from people in early sobriety. And for that first couple months for me, it was just like getting through a day not drinking or using, you know, like that was enough for me. It was like so hard. And I think times have changed and we expect so much from people in early sobriety today. It's really hard. You know, I don't think we talk enough about the difficulty that goes along. And I know I got a birthday shout out that I did on my drama channel, but she also shouted out her husband having 2 years sober. So I want to say congratulations to Ash on his 2 years sober. So, but you know, I think like 2 years is fantastic, but it's early. Like when I was at 2 years sober, like I was still new in sobriety, you know, and it's like you're still learning things, you know. That first year of every holiday was new, everything was new, you know. Every Saturday was new, you know. I didn't know what to do with myself on Friday nights. It was all different, you know. And I remember sitting in this meeting, like I said, I was like a month or so sober, maybe 3 months, I don't know. And I was sitting there listening to this guy, and I can remember looking around me. When I got sober, it was a lot of like older people. There weren't a lot of young people in sobriety. Today, there's a whole, you know, community of young people that are sober, which is fantastic. And I remember thinking to myself, kind of making a deal with God, and I was like, okay, God, if this is what you want for me, you know, then I will. And it's interesting because I later saw this whole video by Oprah on surrender, and she was talking about the idea of surrendering, and she wanted a part in the movie The Color Purple so bad because she loved that book so much by Alice Walker, and she wanted a part in the movie so bad, and she auditioned for it, and she was waiting. So finally she went to this weight loss camp to lose some weight, and she was walking around the track. You can look at the videos on YouTube, and she was walking. It's about, if you just put in Oprah and surrender, you'll find it. And she said she was walking around the track and she said, okay, God, obviously this is not what you would have for me, you know? She had told this story about, drop my glasses. She had told this story about how she had called her agent. And her agent said, you know, Oprah, there are like real actresses that are auditioning for this. And at that point, she hadn't been in any movies or anything, I don't think. And, you know, he said, you know, like, you're not the only one they're wanting for this role. So she was walking around this track and she was talking to God and she said, okay, God, obviously this isn't what you have planned for me. And she said she would have taken anything, like, you know, handing water out to the actor, script girl, whatever. I mean, she was willing to do whatever, she said in this video. And so she said, you know, she was walking around and she said, okay, God, obviously this is not, you know, actress, anything, you know, like I'll just sit there and do whatever. But obviously this isn't what you have planned for me. So whatever you have planned for me next is what I'll do. And she said that basically she just surrendered it over, you know, to God. And that she started singing that gospel song, you know, like, I surrender all. I love that song. And that as soon as she did, her assistant came running out on the track and said, Steven Spielberg's on the phone for you, the director of A Color Purple. And she got on the phone and he said, I heard that you're at a weight loss camp. If you lose 1 pound, the part is not yours. And so she said that she stopped on the way home to Dairy Queen and got a Blizzard. And I love that story, you know, because I think what stands in the way of us sometimes having complete happiness or joy is our resistance to surrendering into that idea, you know. And I remember I was sitting in that room and I was looking around and I thought, God, this is not the life I want. Like, I did not bargain for this, you know, like to sit in a room with like these old guys for the next 40 years. Like this is going to be my life. And I remember sitting there literally having a conversation with God in my head. And I was like, okay, I wasn't even sure how much I believed in any kind of higher power at that point, you know, like in recovery, we're able to come up with our own, you know, idea of what a higher power is. And I wasn't even sure I believed in anything at that point. But I do remember having this conversation with whatever I believed in at that point. Which is interesting because recently I was talking to my sponsor. I loved this concept, so I have to share this, and I will get back to the story. But we were talking about the idea of letting go and letting God. And if you guys aren't believers out there, that's totally fine, whatever. You know, I want my channel to be for everybody. But I thought this was an interesting concept. She said, like, she's like, you are somebody that so believes, like, you know, like you let go and you surrender things up to your higher power, right? And she's like, but there's this one thing that you won't let go of. She was like, where is God in that for you? And I was like, I don't know. And she's like, we don't get to pick our agnosticism. And I was like blown away by that statement. I was like, what? She's like, we do not get to pick our agnosticism. Like, if you believe in all of this, then you have to believe that God is in that too, you know? You have to. I think that's such a hard concept for us, you know? Anyway, I love that statement. We don't get to pick our agnosticism. But anyway, like, you don't get to pick when you do and don't believe in a higher power, you know? I mean, faith is truly believing, right? Which I think is hard. I think that's why so many of us don't or struggle with it. I know that's what it was for me for so long. I felt like I had to get it right. Like, I had to get my God concept right, you know, like I had to know exactly what that looked like, who it was, what it was, before I could say, yes, I believe. And then I remember years later hearing a lead, and I was listening to some lead, like that's just like when we tell our story, this woman was talking, and she was talking to another woman she shared, and the woman said to her, any concept of God that you can imagine is too big for you to even understand, you know? And I thought, oh, it's so true, you know, like, if I really do believe in a higher power, then that higher power is on such a grand scale that I couldn't understand that anyway, right? But back to the story. There's no short stories with me, are there? So anyway, I was sitting in this room, and at this meeting, I can see myself sitting there. It was at the treatment center that I went to, and it was like, they had meetings like several times a week. And I made a deal with God in my head, and I was like, okay, God, like, if you want this, if this is what you want for me, if this is my life to stay sober, that's fine. But then, like, I'm going to have an amazing life as a result of it. Like, I'm going to use this as a medium for having, like, everything in my life that I want. Like, a relationship and, like, a home and all this stuff. Like, I want a life. Like, I don't want to just sit in a room for the next 40 years, you know? That what's so funny is, now I'm one of those old guys, you know, sitting in meetings. And I love meetings today. God, I love them so much. Or some of my favorite, you know, times a day is going to a meeting. But at that point, I didn't see it. I just saw everything that I was losing as a result of that. I didn't see anything positive coming out of it. I just thought, God, I'm going to be sitting in these stupid meetings for the rest of my life with these people that don't understand me, but I don't see it that way today. Some of those people are some of my dearest friends, and I didn't know at the time that I would end up saying that. And God did give me an amazing life. I have an amazing life today, and I think that it's a little bit of, I think it's, for me, a little bit of God and a lot of action, honestly. I think that, well, there's a sobriety joke, so I'll share it. And the sobriety joke goes, there's this guy and he's drowning, right? And so a helicopter comes over and says, come up, and puts down the ladder. And the guy's like, no, God's going to save me. God's going to save me. And I don't talk this much about my spirituality on here. It's usually on my vlog I do, but not over here. I don't very often. But anyway, so people put the ladder down, and the guy's like, no, God's going to save me. God's going to save me. So the helicopter goes away, and he's drowning. He's like, God, help me, help me. The boat comes along and says, get in the boat. And they're trying to pull him on the boat. He's like, no, God's going to save me. God's going to save me. And the guy dies. And he goes to heaven and he meets God. And he says, God, I was praying for you. I prayed, but you didn't save me. And God looks at him and says, I sent a helicopter. I sent a boat. What more did you want? And, I think about that a lot, as like this kind of parable I think that for me, my higher power puts things in my way to surrender to learn from, and it's my choice how resistant I want to be or not. And if you don't believe in anything and you have no higher power or whatever, that's completely fine too. You can find things in your daily life that have no spirituality in it whatsoever, to look at and say, how resistant to this am I? How willing am I to surrender to what's going on? Am I willing to just let go of this, or do I want to fight it? Would I rather be happy or would I rather be right? And today I'd rather be happy. So anyway, that's a great meditation. I think I'm going to save the other one for later. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.